On today's episode of Art Discourse, we are going to pick a question. We are going to read that question. We're going to answer that question. And on this show, Chrissy and I just kind of chat about whatever it is that we want to chat about. We're not necessarily experts in all the conversations that we have, but we try to talk about whatever it is from our own experience.
Yeah, we have, over 10 years experience working in the arts, running an arts organization, working for different collectives and gallery spaces. We've been running an artist residency and printmaking studio for the past 11 years and working as artists ourselves. So,
hello, it's me again. I'm calling from a faraway land. Pick up the phone. I'm calling from a different time zone. Heard you are a pretty good source for major topics in art discourse. Hello, I'll leave my questions as a message at the dial tone.
we come at these questions that have been submitted by artists over the years. Holy mackerel, this one is long. We haven't read any of them in advance, so...
All right. What are the different ways that professional artists make a living off their art? I know there are many, many ways to make a living. I would like to have a variety of options in my mental catalog to refer to. How do people achieve financial sustainability as an artist? That's a huge question for me. I know that there are many ways. So
money.
Let's distill this. This is a question about money. And it's what are the different ways that professional artists make a living off of their art?
I know we've answered this question a few times in a few different ways. So I will link maybe the granting video that we've done. And then we did one that was like, how do I fund my art practice, where we talk about selling things online.
Maybe we talk about how you and I have managed to live for 12 years.
Okay, I feel like that we do sort of talk about that in the how do you fund an art practice? Well, we can try to maybe bring a different spin to it.
So Chrissy and I have been being artists for quite a while now.
Yeah.
We haven't lost our house, so just knock off wood. Over the years, there has not been one single way that we have managed to find financial stability. And I think that it is kind of always slightly changing, and we're always adapting to what's coming. I think this is a really weird place that artists find ourselves in, where our financial security is incredibly shaky and unstable. And even I think for the best of us, it is still always uncertain. So I want to say, when we first started, we started Sparkbox right out of undergrad, and we were primarily pulling in income from a grant that we had found.
Yeah.
And that grant was paying for essentially our salaries for those first
rent.
2 years for the rent while we were renting. We did some workshops during that time, but I think the majority of it, the bulk of our income was from that. And
I would
once
say
the residency was running, we were obtaining income from the residency program.
I would say with that particular grant, in order to qualify to have a salary, we had to give away most of the programming. So most of the programming that we were facilitating had to be pro bono. So that was free workshops or heavily reduced workshops, free residencies, free events. So, because we had to have sort of an equal amount of in kind to earned.
Yeah.
So at that time, the studio wasn't generating a lot of income because everything was free. Or a lot of
we
it.
transitioned after that.
Yeah.
I think a big part of what made things sustainable for us was we made a very smart choice and bought our house very early on. Reducing our overhead is really what made us sustainable. Instead of paying like a high inflated rent price, we were paying a lower reduced mortgage price where there is a a stability there.
We also decided to live rurally, like in a small community. That was a conscious decision that was like with overhead in mind.
Yes, living rurally meant that we didn't pay a large city price for a house, although that's changed in our area at this point. But like sustainability, I think, is like a question of overhead. Is how much do you spend every month? By reducing our overhead, we had to earn less. And so transitioning into like years 3 to 6, we were running the residency program and we picked up part-time teaching jobs as kind of like, I think we were a bit fearful of like the sustainability of the business. Yeah. And so we tried to do like a piecemeal of things. And I think for the most part of running Sparkbox, it has always been a piecemeal of income, where a good chunk of it comes from the residency program. And then some of the other chunks are like our own art sales, where we do craft sales towards the winter season and some in the spring and in the fall. And we apply for grants, and we do special projects, and we work with other community organizations. And over like the years, I think it's always kind of been like a combination of those things.
Yeah. And I mean, we've worked other jobs. We've just, we've run workshops. We've worked with community spaces that need workshops.
Yep.
We do guest lectures for post-secondary institutions. Yep. We do panel discussions for museums and spaces. I've been doing murals for the past few years, so that's, a different way to bring in income. And
I think like a pretty typical one, like you were just mentioning, is like guest lecturing. Like I think that's something that a lot of artists end up doing, where like you either take on like a contractual position and become sessional, or you do like a one-off kind of lecture. I think a lot of us fall back onto that because it's a little bit more of like a known pathway to making money.
Yeah.
Although I really don't think that what sessional teaching is paying is worth what's being put into it. I think that you often work more than what you're getting paid for.
Yeah. I think new avenues that we're really interested in trying and that we're like building on, this video being one of them, is creating marketplaces online that I feel like at the core of everything that Kyle and I do, there has to be something about it that like it essentially feels very like worthy and exciting for us and matches with like our own creative sort of spirit and interest. And so even if it's like, will this help us like pay rent and eat food, it also has to feel sincere and like we're legitimately passionate about it. And so moving to creating videos like this, which, obviously in an ideal world will one day be monetized or we can earn some income off of them, and coupling it with websites like Patreon, where we can, ask our community to help regularly bring us, a monthly income so that we can do these types of educational videos and work with community and, bring artists together to have conversations through series like our Flat Files series. These aren't necessarily earning income right now as we're making them. Nobody's paying us to do this, really. Like, we have our patrons that are supporting these projects. But down the road, there's a potential there for things like this to earn like an actual income.
I think that the like Patreon model is going to be really relevant in the next 5 to 10 years. Like just crowdsourcing like income for yourself by like dollars here and there, I think is gonna really be what sustains a lot of artists through the next little chunk of time.
I think so too. And I mean, I feel like other spaces that we're really intrigued by and like are interested in the model of are spaces like Twitch, where people are, ostensibly, like they're just like making their own TV show.
Yes, a little bit.
And people are on the spot contributing to that space, contributing to that maker. and having this like very direct relationship and exchange where they're saying, we value what you're putting out there, and here is like acknowledgement of that exchange that's happening. I'm sitting here enjoying what you're making, and I'm gonna pay you for the job that you're doing. So I feel like Twitch has like that very like clear example of that happening. I know that YouTube Live, you can do that as well, and I think Facebook Live. I just think Twitch does it in a really like clear and easy way.
Yeah, I think like a good place to like kind of start if you're like looking for like a way to get like a good jump start, like craft fairs and art fairs, I think have been very good for us over the years.
Yeah.
They've been like a very reliable way of like taking the things that we make, art, and directly selling that to a consumer. And that has been like craft sales, and like we did the Toronto Outdoor Festival, like those have been very, very good ways to make money.
Yeah.
And like that is like a way to be financially stable. There are artists that just do the craft sale circuit or just do the art fair circuit. Or, you know, there are a lot of like kind of like I guess more like production orientated craftsmen that do like one of a kind show. And like that's like where they make 30 grand to support themselves throughout the rest of the year. Right? And so I think that that's like a pretty solid place to put investment into your career early. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think, I mean, ultimately it comes down to what you're making and who your audience is and what you need to live. Yeah.
Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. If you're making video, like we're doing right now, and you aren't working for a company, and you're just doing it on your own, then what avenues for success in funding that are out there? How are you renting the equipment? Can you apply for a grant to help you with that? Are you having to hire actors in space? Can you apply for a grant to help you fund with that? Can you reach out to sponsors? You know, can you ask some companies that, you know, tend to sponsor productions of films to participate in your project and sponsor it to help you fund you know, the creation of that piece? And then after that, where are the marketplaces for that? How would you go and put that out in the world? Is it putting it online for everyone to see? Does it go behind a paywall, like a Patreon account? And then put on Vimeo? Do you reach out to production companies and see if they're interested in investing in that? I think like the most obvious ways are finding your marketplace and trying to sell there. And so, you know, like I was saying, if you're a musician, where can you play your music and get paid to play it? If you're a visual artist, where can you show the work to sell it or get paid to show the work? If you're in theater, how, like, what companies are out there where you can like either be able to rent a place affordably and then make money off ticket sales? That's obviously one way. Where online can you be, you know, potentially selling work? Are you really good at teaching workshops? Maybe you set up a Skillshare page and you teach workshops on Skillshare, and that helps you drive some revenue in. Or maybe you set up an e-commerce space on your website where you teach your workshops through Zoom and it's more like live. Or maybe you connect with a school to connect your workshops to community that way. I think the big thing to get used to when you think about funding your art practice is the sort of like peaks and valleys of it. There, you know, I maybe one day we should actually like map this out on some sort of graph, because I feel like there's like times of the year where there's just like an influx, like all the grants seem to be released at one time, and then like, you know, maybe the cycle of how galleries show work, like there just seems like there'll be this one moment where you're like overwhelmed, like there's just so much, and then, you know, then you kind of go into this valley. And I think one of the hardest parts about work in the arts, yes, getting funding, but I feel like after a while you do sort of figure that out, and you know, you settle yourself into a space where people know what you're doing and what you can do. But it's managing the money. It's like when you get those peaks knowing how to like prepare yourself for the valley and then, you know, be ready for that peak again and then prepare yourself for the valley.
Yeah.
If you're not good at managing money, that structure, can be a real hellscape.
Yeah, very much so. Well, that'll be a conversation for another day.
Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, we'll catch you guys next time.
Let us know what we missed in the comments below or what you think we should expand on more next time.
If you enjoyed this video, could you do two things for me? Could you like it, and could you subscribe to our channel? Both of these things help us out tremendously. A big shout out to all of our patrons. Your continued support is amazing, and we really appreciate the encouragement to continue making these videos. If you want to become a patron, you can see the link below in the description.
In art.